Okay, doke. Hello, everybody. Sorry I took this Monday off as I wasn't feeling well, but um, I decided to record a quick YouTube video to make up for it. So this is going to be a bit of a fun one. I played against UpATreeZelda back in early 2020. I believe this was from February. It might be from later, but this is, I believe, one of the first times I've ever played up against a streamer, I think, as well. So going to be opening up with a gas barracks, pretty standard stuff. Up a tree looks like he is going to be going for a gas barracks as well. I don't actually remember too much about my playstyle back in February, but I do remember trying to check if he was streaming. Whenever I go against a streamer, I always turn it off immediately. But there have been times when I'm just like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be publicly broadcasted and if I'm going to look like an absolute fool. But regardless. So going to get underway, going to be sending and scouting SCV pretty early on. So this has stayed pretty consistent with what I'm doing right now. I really enjoy the early SCV in order to scout for possible proxies and just to confirm if they're trying to early expand or if it's a two gas opening. So I'm not entirely sure if I caught this, but UpATree did have two SCVs going down, so I could be a little suspicious of what he's doing, but I do scout the single gas, so I should know that it's probably an expand, and after going back down to the natural, I do confirm that. Looks like I was thinking about harassing the SCV, but decided to go back home, probably just to be safe against the Reaper that I knew was coming out. So my own Reaper is going to be coming up. I'm going to get the reactor and the factory. Getting the second Supply Depot. One thing that I have changed in my playstyle is that I wall off instead of throwing my barracks and my factory in uh, deeper into my main base. Looks like I might be able to pick off the SCV that was building the CC. So UpATree was positioning his Reaper closer to the ramp, and I believe this is probably the best spot to keep your Reapers, but I think he was probably reading chat as he normally does. Um, but yeah, because this is the easiest spot, especially if you don't know what your opponent is doing, and I don't believe he scouted me, so he doesn't know if I'm going for an early expand, he doesn't know if I'm going for two gas, so keeping the Reapers like this is probably the safest thing you can do, just so you can swing between the bases very quickly. If you know your opponent is doing like a single gas thing, you can possibly position your Reaper slightly more aggressively, like at the top of the ramp or something. But in the meantime, I do go for a single Hellion opening, and unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to be caught. And I don't do any micro at all. Going to be pretty much losing everything for free, and because of that, I'm going to have to be a little bit careful here. Do have my third gas at my natural expansion, and this is something that I probably would do differently. I do have a lot of marine, so I might be able to eventually hold it off. But if we were talking about play that I would do today, I might bring all of the SCVs back up into my main base until I can defend properly. Looks like the Reapers are going to be going around, and the Cyclone is just going to be popping out here. Kills one Reaper, the second Reaper is going to the natural expansion. I do pull back the weakened SCV, which is great by me. Macro isn't slipping too far off, but I did forget to build an SCV. And it looks like I had to give a supply depot a little hat here as well, as I struggle with this today. Supply blocks are one of my biggest weaknesses. UpATree did get to do a full scout into the main base with the Reapers though, so he knows what I'm doing, and he does know that I don't have an early 3rd CC. Oh, this is another variation of what I've been doing recently. Um, I used to go for early 3 racks and then get my barrack or 3rd CC, but recently I've been going for the early 3rd CC instead. With the early 3 racks, I learned that you don't really get too much pressure out compared to if you just go for the earlier CC. It takes a little bit for the barracks to really ramp up, so if you don't get any damage, and especially with how easy it is to defend with siege tanks, I felt personally like it didn't justify the cost or justify the build. You can still be aggressive when opening with the early 3 CC as well if you get some nice tanks in some good positions, especially with a couple of ravens. And just continuing to tech up here, going for the stem, going for the other barracks, and it looks like I'm going to be getting ready for a push here as well. Going to be unsieging my tanks, and with the 2 ravens, going to be pushing across the map. Looks like UpATree is placing a supply depot. That's kind of nice. Place it up here so then you can scout for possible drops going into the natural expansion, which is nice. Continuously pushing across the map. Do I start my third CC? Why do I have no money? Oh yeah, I queued it up. Okay, that's why. And it looks like I was pushing towards the third base, and because of it, we're just going to completely miss each other. Okie dokie. And there's this random. I don't. Was this just rallied? I might have F2'd. That might have been why. I think I do see his army coming, or I definitely see the Cyclone. And UpATree scans, sees only a single tank. I have a bit of uncertainty in what I'm doing here because I went back and forth a little bit with my units here. I do have a single tank. He does disable it, and I pull all of my SCVs. This is really not a big fan of this, but the SCVs are going to eventually get on top of the tanks, and it could possibly cause one of the tanks to friendly fire. Doesn't look like it though. And UpATree does GG out. So if we go back just a little bit to see what happened on his side of the map, looks like he didn't have really anything in position. I'm going to be disabling one of the Vikings so I can move more freely with the Ravens here. And once I get on top of his production, he really just doesn't have anything left. He could have possibly sieged up the siege tank and just pulled all of the SCVs like I did on my side of the map, and he might have been okay. But this is a lot of Marines compared to what he had, I believe, as well. And the friendly fire of the siege tanks was pretty devastating. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.